AAA Live! AAA Live! AAA Live!
Ang palatuntunang maghahatid sa inyo ng kaalaman sa edukasyon upang magbigay liwanag at gabay sa ating mga mag-aaral at magulang.
Where your academic goals will be advanced and achieved. AAA Live!
Lilinang ng inyong talento at huhubog ng inyong husay upang magtagumpay sa karerang tatahakin.
AAA Live!
At ngayon, narito ang guro ng bayan, Attorney AMIHAN April ALCAZAR.
Audience and televiewers worldwide. So welcome to AAA Live here at Katipunan channel. So please follow, like, and subscribe to our Facebook and YouTube channels. So for tonight, we will have very interesting topics. So as you know, AAA Live is aired every Wednesdays from 7 to 8 in the evening. So for tonight, we will have the field of business, but there will be two different subtopics. One will be on business finance and the other one is entrepreneurship. So for our first guest, so we will be having a pillar of the academic institution, that is Asian Institute of Management. He majored not necessarily in finance, but eventually ended up being an expert in business finance. So that will be Dr. Victor Limlingan. So we will have a very spirited discussion, definitely. Of course, he has a background in Bachelor of Arts from the Ateneo de Manila University, a Master's of Business Administration, and finally a doctorate in Business Administration from the Harvard Business School in the United States. So let's look forward to our spirited discussion with Dr. Victor Limlingan. He is also currently the chairman of Regina Capital. So I'm very happy to welcome you, sir, to our discussion for today. So it will be definitely beneficial to our academic community to be discussing the field of business finance. So maybe you can greet our audience and viewers for today. Dr. Vic.
Yes. Well, I understand you want to talk about a business career. I guess these are for students who are trying to decide what courses to take, and then after graduation, what to do. No, so long time ago, I was also in that situation. I couldn't decide what to do, especially because I was doing well both in the arts and sciences.
Yes, so I think, sir, we'll start from the very beginning, because now, as you understood it, this is the point of decision making. And maybe I'll give you a little backgrounder about what our students are actually facing in terms of their decision making process now. As you understand, from 2013, when we had the new law enacted under the K-12, so now we have a senior high school, grade 11 and 12, that introduces different academic tracks for those who would like to pursue a post-secondary education. And one of the academic tracks in that will be the so-called Accountancy, Business, and Management, or the ABM track. So even as early as grade 11 and 12, sir, which is previously the first 2 years of our baccalaureate or undergraduate degree in the old curriculum, students are now going to be taking up some subjects related to accountancy, business, and management if they chose to actually pursue a career in the ABM academic track in senior high school. So naturally now the decision-making process becomes crucial for them, because they don't actually want to waste their time by taking up this ABM academic track in senior high school. And then eventually, if they decide to go to college, then they will have a different track. So maybe we'll start from the very beginning, sir. Being in that same position when you were in high school, when and how did you actually decide that you wanted to study business?
Well, actually, I started wanting to become a civil engineer.
Yes, sir. And
To
why?
Of course, as an engineer, you can be in business because you can be a contractor, no? Or you can be working for a construction company. So that was my long-term plan at that time, no? So, but I wanted also to have a liberal arts education. So there was the Ateneo, which I took, which is called then Bachelor of Arts with major in engineering. It's still,
Bachelor of Arts. So it was
Yeah.
more geared towards humanities rather than the sciences?
yes, it's a combination of both. I wanted the humanities more for my own education, but I know,
Yes,
of course,
sir.
I have to earn a living, and therefore I decided I will become an engineer as a profession.
Yes,
But
sir.
But the idea is I want to be educated in the arts, read about history, literature, and so forth, just to make me an educated person.
Yes,
So
sir. So under this program that you took, Bachelor of Arts in Civil Engineering, was it a combination of both the humanities or liberal education that you were talking about and the sciences needed for the engineering program?
that's correct. And in fact, after I finish my Bachelor of Arts, I need 2 more years to specialize in engineering. No?
So it was a total of how many years, sir,
6
that you
years.
had to finish? So
6
6
years.
years.
6 years.
Was it also preparatory to taking a licensure examination for civil
Of course.
engineering?
Yes. At that time, Ateneo wasn't offering any engineering. So the usual path is I finished my Bachelor of Arts after 4 years.
Yes,
Then I
sir.
moved to Ateneo or Mapua or any engineering school and take 2 more years so that I'll have 2 degrees. One is an AD degree and the other one is a civil engineering degree.
I see.
That was
So
my plan.
apparently, sir, this kind of curriculum or pathway has been discontinued, or it's very often not the case that people will take a Bachelor of Arts degree at first and then eventually will take a science or engineering program.
That's correct. But I think what happens now with the K-12, you could actually intend to go, let's say, for example, to be an engineer, but you could take liberal arts.
Yes, sir.
Class.
Because actually right now, sir, there's an academic track that will be geared towards more engineering in senior high school, which is the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Yes.
Yes, and so eventually, if you did finish that in college, as you said, you may just eventually decide later on to take up the whether it's ABM or the general arts and sciences track, they also have it similar to that. So in your case, sir, since you took both the liberal arts or Bachelor of Arts and also the engineering,
Wait.
Yes.
Yeah.
What eventually,
That
in
was
terms
my
of
plan.
career? Yes,
Yeah,
that was the
my
plan.
But
what happened,
things
sir,
turned out
eventually?
the other way, no?
Yes.
Okay, so when I was going to graduate already from my Bachelor of Arts,
Yes, sir.
a few years before that, my father died.
Uh-huh.
So
And then, what was the result, sir?
I'm sorry?
What was the immediate result for you with his passing away, sir?
Well, my mother had to be our sole support, so I didn't want to rely on her.
Yes,
For
sir.
2 more years. So I was to already work.
Okay,
And
and did you?
yeah, immediately, because I have a Bachelor of Arts, I could work. So I was planning to work and then be a working student.
Yes,
Because
sir.
I didn't want to burden my mother anymore.
Is
So
that what happened, sir?
No, again, that's not what happened. What happened is
Okay.
before our graduation, Ateneo decided to offer the first full-time MBA program. They call it the
In
MBA.
graduate school. In graduate
Graduate
school.
school to have a master's in business. So they
Okay.
offered it as the graduating students.
Yes,
Then I
sir.
telling our student counselor, I'm sorry, but I don't have any money. Sabi niya, we will give you a loan.
Really? There was a
Yes.
student loan available then?
Yes, there was a student loan available. And he says, it's an MBA. You can take industrial management.
Yes.
So after 2 years, you don't have 2 bachelor degrees. You have 1 bachelor degree and 1 master's degree. Plus, we will take the money.
Okay. So did you take that offer?
And refuse.
An offer you cannot refuse, definitely.
Because it means that I didn't have to rely on my mother for financial support and my brother. My brother was also working, but I felt that with this package, with this proposal,
Yes,
it
sir.
was the best. It was the best
Okay.
for me, and therefore I went into business in effect
Yes.
because it was an MBA degree. I was planning engineering degree, but because I didn't have the money or I didn't want to put financial pressure on my mother, I decided to take an MBA. That's how I got introduced to business. I didn't know about business before that.
Yes, sir. So you did not pursue anymore that plan of yours to go into engineering at all?
No more. No more.
More. I see.
After I finished my MBA, I got a good offer.
I see. So let's backtrack a little, sir, because as you were saying, this decision to eventually study business was really born out more of the opportunity that presented itself. But as you were already studying in the Bachelor of Arts course, it had some relation in effect to what qualities would you say will be complementary to any student who would like to pursue business? Like what kind of skills or competencies would they develop to eventually go into a business program?
Yes. Well, they were telling it. My professors were telling before that the Bachelor of Arts is a very good preparation also for other things in life, like business. For example, they tell you how to write letters, how to communicate.
Yes.
And in fact, when I went to business, one of my advantages is that I could write good letters, and then I could come out with communication, and so forth.
Yes.
So these were the skills that I learned, not because I wanted to go into business, but because I wanted to be able to, be more contribute to society, be more educated. But later on, it turned out that these basic tools are very important in business also. So you don't know only about business, you must also be able to write. You must be able to write memos, you must be able to write reports. You must be able to make a presentation right now and so forth. No? Of course, at that time, we didn't have IT, but now, of course, you need also.
You definitely need to
At that
have
time, we didn't
good
have
presentation skills in business. But when you eventually went, sir, to the MBA program, which is now, again, more specifically for business, what kind of skills and competencies did you develop or hone in the business program, which is more of the graduate school, that you would say is a particular skill, unique or peculiar to business students?
Yes. Okay. So when I took the MBA program, I wasn't exposed to business. I have no courses in economics, no courses in accounting. I've never taken any course in accounting in my college. So when I took the MBA, that was the first time I was exposed to business. No? And it is again my basic technical background that helped me, because we were taking calculus, algebra, math, and so forth. So for me, economics is very simple because it's just simple equations. And accounting is also nothing but debit, credit, and so forth. So because of my engineering and math background, it was easier for me to study the technical aspects of business. No?
So this really helped you.
Yeah, I still had plans of going into industrial management, but again, my life actually shows that there are a lot of things that happen which you did not plan.
Yes,
But you have to make
and there are many circumstances that may lead you to a path that you have never probably imagined will happen to you.
Yeah, I never thought I will take a master's degree. I
Yes.
always I'll become an engineer, but then
Uh-huh.
at that time I was given a good offer, and of course the finance involved, no? That was actually my main consideration because I didn't want to be a burden on my mother, no?
Yes, I think our students will very much like to take this lesson from you, sir, as what you've mentioned, that it could be that you have this specific plan in mind, but circumstances in life and situations may lead you to decide otherwise. And so I think that could be a very useful and beneficial advice that you could possibly give to them, especially because maybe many of them are undergoing a similar situation, let's say being brought on by the circumstances of the pandemic or other family situation that they may find themselves. What can you say to that, sir?
Yeah, well, I really love my mother because he said, no matter how much sacrifice I have to make, you will get a good education, because that's that's the way out, no? So she sold out some of our properties in order to be able to pay for my education, no? So basically, her focus is you have to finish, no? And naturally, of course, there's a very strong incentive for me to do very well, to study very well, because I know that this is one way for which our family can recover, because with my father gone, naturally, we had financial difficulties, no? Not as bad as I know a lot of families, but nevertheless, it was different from when my father was alive, no?
Yes, of course. So I think students can take heed from your life experiences that definitely we will be deciding on the basis of many factors. And sometimes we may not always decide at first what we had initially thought, but maybe what the opportunities will be available to us.
Yes. Okay.
Definitely.
The other turn in the road is when I was studying, I caught the eye of one of our professors.
Yes, sir.
And
Because
he
you
liked
were
to
doing very well in school.
Huh?
Because you were doing very well in school.
Especially in his subject.
Yes. What was his subject, sir?
It's called quantitative methods. Math, using math or something to solve business problems. And at that time, he was not a full-time professor. He was just a part-time professor. He was working at investment bank.
Yes. So what did the professor do or say to you, sir?
He said, okay, when you graduate, you work for me. Into finance.
Yes. So was
again,
that exciting, sir, for you?
Finance. But then my thinking is my professor had a very good position. Parang it's an advantage na, I mean, I'm known already. He knows me. So I'll get a chance to do something about it. So that's why I went into finance.
Because of this professor who invited you to work with him.
To work for the company that he works for. It no longer exists. It's called a company called Bancom Development Corporation. Headed by Mr. Rojas at that time.
Yes. But at the time, sir, so after your MBA, so then you had this exposure, as you've mentioned already, to a business field, but then not specifically yet for finance. Was it more of general about this MBA program? And then later on, because you were invited to work in an investments bank, that's how you learned about finance?
Yes. Of course, in the MBA program, we were taught all kinds of subjects like marketing, like production, like human behavior. So we took the entire courses, no?
But so all of the whole gamut of functional areas of business administration. And then eventually, after MBA, when you had this opportunity to work in an investment bank, how did you prepare yourself for a career in business finance?
Okay. Well, first of all, we had the basic finance. And I guess that's one reason why I work with my professor, because in effect, the professor-student relationship continued while I was working for him. He was briefing me and says, read this book and so forth. So that's how I got introduced to finance, simply because he was the expert. And I guess from his point of view, the more I learn about finance, the more I can contribute to the company.
Yes. So would you say that's more of like a mentor-mentee
Yes.
relationship that happened with your professor?
Yes.
So, and how many years did it take you, sir, in the actual practice of finance that you would say that you became now interested to pursue an academic career? How did you make that transition eventually, sir?
Okay. You remember I was able to get my MBA from Ateneo with the loan. So I was able to repay the loan.
So they didn't run after you.
Yeah. One day, the dean of the Ateneo Graduate School of Business called me and said, "You have to teach." And I said,
Really?
"Yeah." I said, "Father, I don't have to teach because I already paid off, because I don't want to
The
teach."
loan.
That's teaching
Yes.
from 6 in the evening to about 9 in the evening. And
Yes.
it's Ate Paura. And I said, "No." And I said, "No, you have no choice. You owe us."
Really?
Yeah. So I have no choice but to teach. I never taught before, except in the ACL, catechism, and so forth.
Yes.
So I started teaching, and I got to like it.
Really?
That's the first time I got introduced to being a teacher, and and then I said, I was saying I like being a teacher. And one of my friends says, "Well, if teaching is your passion, why do you do it part-time? Why don't you do it full-time?"
Yes.
And at that time, the place to go for a full-time job as a professor was at AIM. So that's why
That's why you eventually ended up in the Asian Institute of
eventually
Management.
I found my calling, which is that to be a teacher. Now,
So what happens, sir, to investment banking and the professor who introduced you to business finance?
well, he was very sad, you know. I said I'm grateful for everything, but I decided that I want a profession as a teacher. No, now you have to understand that when I did that, I had to take a salary cut.
Yes, definitely.
So that's why I had to decide, what do I want? No, for me, what interests me is to be a teacher, and for me, the decision is I'm going to be a teacher. Now there will be financial difficulties, but I'll try to work them out. But it is better to be happy as a teacher than to be unhappy as an investment banker.
So I think students, students can take heed in your lesson in terms of your career trajectory, that sometimes we have to make a decision between what is it that is our passion and makes us happy, even though it may have less financial compensation for us, rather than a career where we will not be so satisfactorily happy, although it may have more financial compensation. Yes. So there might be a trade-off, as you are saying, in making these decisions.
Yes.
So when you already decided, sir, to have a teaching career, what particular subject did you actually teach eventually?
Okay, I had a very interesting dean. He says, I'm not gonna let you teach finance because you know it.
Really?
I want you to teach a topic which you know nothing about, so that you can be a better teacher. So my first subject was in marketing. I was teaching marketing.
Which you had to study for because you had no background in marketing.
Because I don't know it by you know, simply by instinct. I had to prepare for it. No, because he said that's the best way to teach, when you feel that you don't know the topic so well, that therefore you can appreciate the problems of your students.
Because were you learning together with your students in this case, because this was a topic that you did not have much background about?
No, I never practiced marketing. Of course, in investment banking, you try to use your services, but usually in investment banking, people go to you when they need money, right?
Yes, exactly. Whereas marketing will be more of promoting.
You.
Yes. So when you started to actually teach marketing, how did you also eventually now make this leap to further your academic career by then studying your doctorate program?
Okay. So I guess again, as a professor where the pay isn't good, I had to think of other ways of making money. So I went consultancy. I did some research because
Yes.
if you write a case, then you get paid extra
Yes.
about that. So I started doing research, and then I noticed one thing. I noticed that in the Philippines, the most successful business group are the Chinese.
Yes.
Chinese. And when I look around, because we were also teaching all over Southeast Asia, they were also #1 in Thailand, #1 in Malaysia, and so forth. So I was trying to understand why they were so successful. So that became my field of research. And then my president, so for me, this is what is the role of the administration is. The president said, you have a very good topic. It is worth explaining a lot. But if you do it here, you will not get the recognition that you deserve. What you have to do is take the course at Harvard, doctorate course at Harvard, and make that your doctoral thesis.
Yes.
So I said, how do I get there? And he says, well, I'll help you. I'll talk to somebody and he will recommend you and so forth. Okay. But what about the money? I don't have money. So they said, no. Do you know that Harvard, there's a chair that was funded by Eugenio Lopez for Filipinos. So if you get into Harvard, you will get funded by that. No?
Yes.
But focus on, that's how it came out that my field of study became the overseas Chinese.
I see. So, and discovered definitely the overseas Chinese and their businesses all throughout Southeast Asia. Correct,
Yeah,
sir?
Successful, considering, first of all, that there are very few. Secondly, they were discriminated against.
Yes.
They were not
in the
getting
countries.
support, no? They were discriminated against. And even sometimes they were even persecuted. But parang they are the Jews of Asia.
Yes. So with this very interesting background that had its roots first in your own experience in the Philippines of the overseas Filipino, eventually Chinese who became successful here. And then you eventually were teaching business. What sort of lessons learned from that kind of background could you actually impart to our students if they do decide that they want to have a career in business, because it's actually a very wide field?
Well, actually,
what kind of considerations would they have to think about?
Yeah, actually, after that, what I did is I said, well, to be successful in business, there's certain process that you can. And I said, what we should do is help others. So what I did is I wanted to help nonprofit, because for nonprofit, as we said, you cannot do good unless you're doing well. Because if you can so forth, walang mangyayari, no? So
yes, sir.
I started working with NGOs. And one of the cases that I wrote that's very successful was the story of the Good Shepherd Sisters of Baguio.
Yes.
How they were able to in effect turn a religious vocation into a profitable business. No, so doesn't mean that because you're religious that you should not practice sound business practices. Because for me, the best way to explain how you can be successful in business is to show how you can use it in other fields other than business.
I see. So right now, because there are many challenges, for example, born out of this pandemic, many people who otherwise would not have thought that they would go into business suddenly became, for example, food business owners, or they started to offer services. They started to be plantitos and plantitas selling plants and seeds and seedlings, right? So is there something that to be derived from what you're saying here, that maybe one of the ways to be successful in business is to not be in business in the first place and eventually go to business?
No, I think, well, maybe what I will do is move on to how we got into business. No, so
Yes, sir.
I left for my doctorate in 1983,
Mhm.
2 weeks before Aquino was assassinated, first
Yes.
case, and I came
Yes.
back in 86. Of course, I came back to my school. No,
Mhm, mhm.
now the one that had a problem was my wife, because
Yes.
before we went to the US, she was working for the bank.
Yes.
And of course, we were raising our children. We had 4 children, but by the time that we came back, they're okay now. So she wanted to get a job.
Okay.
But
In a bank.
yes, in a bank. But
Mhm,
when you're our age
mhm.
and you stop working, it's very difficult to get a job.
Yes.
So,
So, did
so
she
this is,
become Regina Capital?
that's
Was
right.
this the reason for the Regina Capital,
Yeah,
sir?
actually, again, it's all by accident. She was
Mhm.
already trying to come out with putting up a small business. She already
Yes.
enrolled in ESTA and so forth. Now,
Mhm.
at that time, in my mind, I always wanted to get into a stock brokerage. But to do
Mhm.
that, you have to buy a seat.
Mhm.
And
So, but
I
how
learned
did
about
it come
brokerage.
about?
Sorry, I
How
learned
did it
about
come about then?
yeah, because I had a student from Thailand who
Mhm.
said whose thesis was to put up a brokerage seat in Thailand. So he
Yes.
was explaining to us and say, I said, this is a good business and so forth. And then
Mhm.
one of the members is the corporate secretary of the Makati Stock Exchange.
Okay.
So he said, one time he called me and said, there are 5 seats being offered. Parang
Mhm.
to be auctioned off, you might want
Mhm.
to bid for one of them. So I said,
Okay.
okay, I'll bid for it and so forth,
Yes.
because I think my wife and I would like to go into that business because, as I said, the salary of a professor is not high, and I want my
Yes.
children to have a good education.
Okay. Yes. And you did bid for one of the seats.
Actually, yeah, I did that, and then this is the funny thing.
Uh-huh.
The corporate secretary of the Philippine Stock Exchange called me up and said they decided not to bid it out. They decided that they will decide who should be getting a seat.
Uh-huh.
They will just decide who will get it. And of course, you have to pay for it. So they said,
Okay.
since you are a professor,
Yes.
you might as well be able to get it because a professor brings prestige to the Makati Stock Exchange.
I
So
see.
I got the
Okay.
seat because I was a professor. I never
Uh-huh.
thought that being a professor gives you a business advantage. So I got
Yes.
that seat because I was a professor.
I see. So never in your dreams did you think that being a professor would actually get you a seat in the stock exchange.
That's right. I never imagined in my mind that, because
Uh-huh.
if it was bidding, some
Mhm.
men can bid
Mhm.
higher than me because
Of
they have
course.
more money. I only have
Yes.
so much money. Uh,
Mhm.
so he said, no more bidding. This is the price for which I had to raise some money,
Of
but I
course.
get it. So that's how I
I
got into the brokerage business.
I see. So with that, with Regina Capital being your firm
Yes.
involved in stock brokerage, so how then did you continue, sir, with your academic career
Well,
and then also with this
yeah.
business?
Well, first of all, people do not understand it, no? That the one who actually made Regina was my wife, not
Uh-huh. Regina.
Regina. But because, of course, yeah, they always think I had some. So it was actually my wife who actually ran it and developed it, no? Now,
Mhm.
how did we find out how to run a brokerage? So what I did is I sought out the original stockbrokers. A certain
Mhm.
Mr. Alex De Castro, who lived to be past 100, but died recently.
Really?
Yeah, he's called the dean of the stockbrokers.
Uh-huh.
Parang he taught he was a very selfless man. He taught us all on how to run a brokerage.
Yes.
So he says,
Mhm.
so we invited him for lunch, and he says, running a brokerage is very simple.
Mhm. Really? Okay. What did you learn from the dean
so he
of the
says,
stockbrokers?
there are only 3 things that you have to learn on how to run a brokerage. First, you
Yes.
have to be there because there's a lot of money involved. You cannot entrust it somebody. You have to be there. So tamang-tama, my wife will be there.
Okay. So she was the full-time business.
It was a full-time job. You have to be hands-on. You cannot just let a professional run it and so forth.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the second lesson being,
the second one, he says, you have to understand that this is a feast and famine business. Para it's like the Bible, you will have 7 years of feasting and 7 years of famine. Okay. So the first thing you have to do when it is the years of feasting, you must put up a lot of reserves. Parang in the Bible where you store. So you must save a lot so that when the next feast famine comes in, you will be able to survive. The key is to survive.
And that is the nature of the actual business, really. It's a feast and famine business. Okay.
Feast and famine. It's feast and famine.
I see. And the last lesson that he taught you, sir?
Well, no, first of all, because of that, he says, there are correlations to that. One, of course, is your organization must be for a famine business. If feasting come in, you just pay overtime to your people. They will work harder, but do not have a staff that is geared for feasting. Because when famine comes,
it will be difficult.
Okay, that's why when the famine came called COVID, we were prepared because we were not voted.
Yes. So the principles of lean management were already being taught even at the time.
That's right. And then he says also during the lean time, you must have some businesses to tide you over. Like in this case, he had a restaurant.
So that was another business.
Travel agency, no? Okay. The last in the saying is in this business, you cannot be lending money. They call it because they say it's very difficult when you lend money. You are not a banker.
Yes, it's different, right?
Huh? You're
it's
a broker.
Different.
You do not know how to lend, and more importantly, you do not know how to collect. Therefore, do not lend. Okay, those are with these 3 simple rules, you're okay. That's it.
And did you take to heart all of these lessons, sir, that was taught?
Yeah, so the best is really to us. Now, I cannot, of course, give a general indication of how to be successful in business, but I think one of the key questions I always ask is, what does it take to be successful in this kind of business? Because there are different kinds of business. In some kind of business, maybe less important is location. Okay. So you have to understand the business. You have to understand what makes for success in this particular business, not success in business in general.
In general. So isn't that the reason, sir, why even right now, because we do have courses in business, and then there are specific majors that are being offered for the different programs. For example, you have entrepreneurship, financial management, marketing management. So do you think there is a greater probability that if students take something that is more specialized in a particular business or industry, that they might have better background to go into that kind of business?
Well, in our case, we have what are called industry studies.
Yes.
The cement industry. Then later on, we says, oh, what makes for success in this business and so forth. So an industry focus later on might be important, especially towards the end. But the important thing is when you get into that. Now, before we go into that, you have actually 3 career paths in business.
Yes.
Okay. The 2 major one is, do you plan to own your own business, be an entrepreneur, or do you want to be a professional manager?
And what would be the distinction, sir, for our students to know the difference in making a decision regarding that?
Well, I guess it's your interest to run your own business,
Mhm.
to run your own business. But the other thing is what they call the risk, no? Because running a business is risky, but if you are a professional manager, then it's not as risky. Then you have to also consider, if you're a professional manager, do you want to work for a Philippine corporation, which really means, do you want to work for a family? Because all Philippine corporations are family corporations. Or do you want to work for a multinational?
Yes.
No, because
So
there's a different
these are
culture
very
there, no?
important considerations whenever we are thinking about opportunities. Also,
Yeah.
I think one other situation or phenomena that has manifested itself in the Philippine landscape is that of the overseas Filipino workers. What do you think are the prospects now for young Filipinos, our students and recent graduates, insofar as the worldwide phenomena of overseas labor markets or workforce is concerned?
I understand. Well, I don't know too much of it, but I understand. First, there's the thing of working overseas, but still being in the Philippines. That's called the BPO.
Yes.
You're doing work abroad, but you're not abroad. You're here.
Yes.
No?
Yes. So that's one possibility.
So forth and so on. Of course, that is the best. No? The other one, of course, is to be a professional rather than, of course, to be domestic, because I'm assuming if you're a college graduate, you don't want to work as a domestic. So the question is the profession, and I think the issue there is, what is your end point? No, are you going to be forever an overseas worker, or at some point you come and work? No. The good thing about it is once you work abroad, and then you can come back, and there are a lot of positions here. No? I used to work for the MCI, which is one of subsidiaries of construction companies, and a lot of our engineers live for abroad, and we allow them to live abroad because they want the adventure.
Yes.
I mean, not because of money. They want to find out how it is to work in Singapore, how it is to work in Europe, and so forth. And then we always tell them, when you have the experience and you want to come back home, then we get you back.
I see. Okay, so there's always a possibility, even if students or recent graduates would want to look at overseas work, then whatever it is that we learn from other countries, we can always return to the Philippines and make it beneficial to our own situation.
Yeah, maintain your ties. Like the engineers that leave us and go abroad, they keep maintaining their ties with their fellow engineers, so that when they decide to come home, they'll say, "Oh, I want to come home now, and this is my experience." Then usually they can get a good job, because as usual, there are pro and cons of being an overseas worker. No, one, of course, is for the young one. You have the adventure. You can go to places. Earn a good income. But some people naman feel na at a certain point, they feel homesick, no? And
Yes.
so
Yes. So given all of these very varied experiences that you've had, both in the academe and also in the experiential learning, which is in the work environment, sir. So in the end, because we are talking about the field of business and specifically in finance, what can you say in a nutshell to all of the students and even the recent graduates who would like to have those kinds of studies, even further studies beyond college, and also if they would like to pursue a career specifically in the financial field?
Well, as I said, looking back at my life, I don't think it's possible to plan everything. Okay, I just follow what my interests lie, what I think important, interesting to me, and that's what I went. And of course, I found my calling early in life, which is that I wanted to be a teacher.
Yes.
Whatever I consult, is the question that's very easy to answer is, will it make me a better teacher? If I take consultancy, if I do this research, will it make me a better teacher? So
and it did, actually. All of these various experiences did make you a better teacher, sir?
Yeah, that's the main question for me. Does it make me a better teacher?
Mhm. Because
If
in the end,
that-
that was your passion.
yes. Yeah,
Mhm.
which I just discovered. I didn't know about it. It's only because Father Bo myself forced me to teach. No?
I see. So by the force of circumstances, you found your
But
calling.
never entered my mind that I love to teach.
Yes.
And then when I was at AIM, they said, don't worry, if after 2-3 years you don't like it, you will leave of your own volition.
Mhm. But
After
you
that,
didn't leave.
you're stick forever with us.
I see.
I don't know if that's true in Pamantasan. No?
But I think once a teacher, always a teacher. You always want to lecture people.
Yeah.
No matter where you are, I think.
Yeah. So maybe there's some who want to be banker and will always be a banker. I don't know.
I see. So I think we've had some very, very interesting discussion for today, sir. Really, so many nuggets of wisdom that we were able to be imparted with. And so I think in the end, we want to, of course, want to throw all of these opportunities to our students to give them the challenge of finding what is it that they would like to have a passion for, what is it that they can be good at, and what sort of skills and competencies that they can prepare for, eventually not only for their careers, but actually for life. I think that's really what you're telling them. These are the life lessons that they can take from your professional, academic, and personal experiences. So your last words, sir, before we end our discussion for today, to our students, our graduates, and to our community.
Well, as I said, I love being a teacher because of what you can see that you have inspired somebody. This philosopher said, the mind is not a vessel to be filled with information. It is a fire lighted.
Yes.
I hope
And
always think that when I give a lecture, I have lit the fire of the mind of a student rather than filling him with knowledge.
Yes. So with that, I think very, very apt words from our professor and our distinguished representative in the Board of Regents representing the business sector, but not only someone from the business sector, but specifically someone who has devoted himself to the academic field, specifically for business. So again, we thank you so much, sir. As you said, to lit a fire of inspiration. I think that's what we wanted to do. And now, because of these difficult circumstances, we are now in this new field called virtual world. So we have to try to communicate and reach our community, even if they cannot be with us face to face, or it's not possible for us to be together personally. We still need to find some ways to reach and inspire our students or graduates in our community. So again, thank you so much, sir. So we're looking forward to meeting again very soon. I hope when things will be much more safer for all of us.
I had my first vaccine already, so
that's good, sir. And very soon, I think the second one was this,
okay.
of course, care of the Pasig City Local Government Unit,
That's
correct?
Right. That's right.
That's good. That's very good, sir. So we wish you all safety precautions to take, of course, and the best of health to everyone. And maybe we can say health is wealth. Is it correct, sir?
Correct.
Yes. So with that, thank you so much, sir. And we look forward to meeting you again very soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. And that was Professor Dr. Victor Limlingan for us. So again, we wish everyone a good day and we look forward for you joining us again the next time that we will have our virtual meeting and discussion. So thank you very much and good day to everyone. Stay safe and healthy. So we just had the most lively discussion for our field of business major in business finance. Now let's move on to, again, a very exciting field within the field of study of business, and that would be entrepreneurship. So our next guest is going to be a small entrepreneur, as she said, but now has become very big because she has become the president of the Franchising Association of the Philippines. Mrs. Sherill Quintana is the president of Oryspa Incorporated. And so we will see her journey, how she came to be from a hobbyist to become a successful entrepreneur in her own right. So let's watch her introduction, what she has gone through as a small entrepreneur's journey, and then we will have our discussion with her. So we will be right back after this video presentation.
Sherill Ramos Quintana is the founder and president of Oryspa Spa Solutions Incorporated. Oryspa is the #1 maker of 100% natural rice brand-based health and beauty products in the Philippines. It won the Most Promising Franchise at the 2015 Franchise Excellence Awards and the ASEAN Business Awards for Excellence in Healthcare at the ASEAN Business Summit at Vientiane, Laos last September 5, 2016. Sherill is a sociology graduate of the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. She finished her Certified Franchise Executive course, a mini MBA in franchising at the Asian Institute of Management. She is also a trained Gallup USA Strengths Coach. In March of this year, Sherill was named ASEAN Woman Entrepreneur in Hanoi, Vietnam. She was also cited as one of the most inspiring Filipina of 2016 and is part of the book 55 Inspiring Stories of Women Entrepreneurs by Go Negosyo. Participating as a policy dialogue contributor in the World Trade Organization's Report 2016 on leveling platforms for SMEs. In May 2016 at Geneva, Switzerland, she was invited again by WTO as speaker last September 27 at the WTO book launch, public forum, and debate at its headquarters. Currently, Sherill is a member of the board of directors of the Philippine Franchise Association. Aside from being a multi-awarded entrepreneur, she is a passionate mentor and professional speaker on the topics of entrepreneurship, branding, franchising, and strength-based coaching. She recently launched her book, A Small Entrepreneur's Journey: How to Start, Survive, and Succeed. Above all, Sherill is a true blue mom, taking care of 4 wonderful children with her husband Jingle in their home in Laguna. Sherill's ultimate goal is to bring the Filipino brand to the global market. She is working on it without compromising her family life. She also finds time to mentor other SMSEs, help them achieve success en route with her to achieving a global Filipino brand. The book, A Small Entrepreneur's Journey, is an anatomy of the making of a homegrown brand from starting, surviving, to succeeding. 16 years of Sherill's entrepreneurial journey is captured in 8 chapters of this book. It also illustrates the growth of Sherill, both as an entrepreneur and as a person. In her own words, becoming a better entrepreneur is striving to become a better person. The book is filled with her time-tested strategies, experiences, learnings, and earned wisdom of Sherill, both from business and personal standpoints.
We're back to the televiewers and to the audience of AAA Live here at Katipunan channel. So please like, follow, and subscribe to our Facebook and YouTube channels. So we are having our episode on the field of business. And for our segment, we are going to be joined by an entrepreneur. So she's a very successful one in the last 2 decades. And this will be her introduction. A small entrepreneur has finally made it big in the field of franchising. For her entrepreneurship journeys, this is what we have to say.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very blessed and grateful to be with you this afternoon. Thank you, Dr. April and the rest of the team.
Yes. So we will be showing our video for Mrs. Sherill Ramos Quintana, her awards, and also about her company, Oryspa Incorporated.
Pag pagod tayo at may masakit sa katawan, ang una natin naiisip ay magpaspa because a spa is a place to relax and pamper yourself. Pero instead na mag-book sa spa, uunahin na natin matapos ang iba pa nating trabaho, especially to multitasking women. Pero hindi na ngayon because Oryspa captures and brings the spa experience anywhere, anytime. All Oryspa products are made of 100% rice bran and rice bran oil. Oryspa is the first and #1 maker of rice bran-based spa products in the Philippines. Oryspa products are infused with the same century-old secrets for that exceptional Asian beauty. It is anti-aging and moisturizing. So nagre-relax ka na, gumaganda ka pa. Treat yourself to a selection of Oryspa products. Bring home your very own spa experience.
So that's for our video. So right now, we're so excited to please discuss with you, Mrs. Quintana, regarding your journey as an entrepreneur. But let us start from the very beginning. So when you were young, did you actually have any interest in business or in entrepreneurship? When and how did this interest arise for you?
Well, as a common Filipino child raised by Filipino parents, we're not, raised to be entrepreneurs. We're raised to study hard and aim for a good corporate job when you become a professional, or pursue professions that are probably, more top of mind of the parents. So, you know that, Dr. April, when I studied in the university, I got a degree in sociology, and my first job was in community development. But when I was young, during summertime, me and my siblings were selling ice candies that I produced.
Yes.
But I also didn't want to sell. So my siblings were the ones selling. I'm the one who's producing the ice candies, costing, procurement, marketing, and they're the ones selling or with their playmates. So some of the values were already showing up even as a child. But as I learn and I also observe other entrepreneurs, if they have thoughts about entrepreneurship since they were young, I think all of us have different necessities during a certain period in time, during different stages of our lives. And if there's a stimulus for an idea presented to us, then we also respond to it. So probably that's what happened to me. And the overarching goal for all of the activities is to actually change things, change the ways for a better life. So the entrepreneurship came to me as a coping mechanism for me to be able to manage my young family, because I just started a family and I gave birth to my firstborn son, Elmo. So that's how entrepreneurship struck. And the success these days, I think it can be explained more of a function of knowledge, what we've learned in the past since childhood, and the technologies we are able to get presented with, and the social awareness that we were exposed with, the communities.
I see. So I think maybe we can just reminisce a little bit, because you mentioned about your experience with this home business when you were young. So what do you think will be the skills and competencies that we can try to explore and identify and maybe even develop in home among our young people, so that they might develop an interest in business and maybe, who knows, become entrepreneurs themselves?
Exactly. You're correct with that. Because I also are observing, I have 4 children and different ages. So I'm observing them. First, I think is teachability. Teachability is they are able to absorb lessons and listen to others, no? And also listen from the vicarious experiences of others. Through teachability that they gain wisdom, because some would probably say you have to experience hardship to be able to be successful. So it's not true for that's my opinion, no? It's not
Not
true
necessarily, yes.
not necessarily. So I think it's the virtue of teachability. It's also able to have a temperance, for our children these days, with a lot of stimuli, around them, and also the courage to start something on their own. So
Yes.
I think those virtues.
Skills, yes. So I think maybe we can relate that to the decision-making process that our students are currently undergoing, because our viewers are comprising of students, their parents, or stakeholders in the education sector. So maybe you can impart some of your knowledge and experience that you've had with your own children, and how you're encouraging them to go and develop an interest in business and become an entrepreneur. Because I understand that your eldest son has now become an entrepreneur even while he's still in college. So maybe you can tell us about that.
Yes, he's just a freshman now, going sophomore in the University of the Philippines, and he started his milk tea franchise business. But then again, since you're asking me, what is that we impart to the next generation?
Yes.
Even if they don't choose to become entrepreneurs, even if they choose to become professionals or president of the university, so
Yes.
it's always the overarching trait that they should develop is the entrepreneurial mindset. Entrepreneurial mindset does not it's not congruent to entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurial mindset for all professions, even entrepreneurs should actually develop this before they become successful. So I know you know about this, but I wrote a book about a small entrepreneur's journey. In fact, all of my learnings in 2 decades are here. And I started the book with how to strengthen your negosyante mindset, the entrepreneurial mindset. So that mindset actually have 6 tenets, under it. And first is open yourself. Open yourself to opportunities, open yourself to learning. So still teachability is number one. And then number one, number two. And then number three is knowing yourself. Some of us maybe, running our courses on a day-to-day basis without knowing what are really our strengths, or we want to accomplish so much wherein in fact those strengths we can accomplish by complementing our weaknesses with other people's strengths. So it starts from knowing who you are. And then I always believe this, we've known each other for many years. Always when you want to become successful, you have to become a better person first. So be a better person. And that's part of the entrepreneurial mindset. And of course, do it now. Becoming a better person before you're able to do some things, some of your plans. If you don't have it, give it to yourself. Learn. Go back to school if you can, so that you can actually impart this to others, because you cannot give what you don't have. And lastly, part of that entrepreneurial mindset is pray hard. Some of the things we don't have control. Let's just push for the best from our end, and pray hard that things will go along the course well.
Yes. Actually, one of the innovative courses that we are offering right now under the new curriculum from 2016 is called the Enterprising Mind. So what we really would like to develop, as you've mentioned, and you've explained that in your book very well, is to really have an enterprising mind. As you said, you don't have to become an entrepreneur or a business person to have such an enterprising mind. Any field that they choose to have and enter, they can apply this one. But let us now discuss a little bit more about your own business, because right now, if we're talking about the field of business, and I'm sure there will be listeners who are really interested in how they can begin their business, what do you think are the particular skills and competencies that our students or our young people and graduates should develop should they decide to really have a business career or go into entrepreneurship? Because now it is a particular skill that they should have when they are going to be in business.
They have to start first with people management skills, because that's a very
a little bit about that.
Yes, because that's even with well-established entrepreneurs, even with entrepreneurs who are already tycoons, people management is one of the bottleneck for success. So if you want to start, you have to gain that people management skills, and this is how you are able to work with people. Because I always believe this, even in starting business, it's also about governance. So because you will not be accomplishing so much if you are only working alone. You have to be able to work with a team. So how do you empower your team to be able to accomplish, so that you can have that synergy, you can multiply the efforts? It's really about people management skills. And again, probably some are curious, do I need to be, if I entered milk tea business, do I need to know how to mix flavors? Do I have to go into HRM? Not necessarily. Even up to now, this may be surprising, Dr. April. I don't think I haven't mentioned this to you. I even went back to school now, studying professional culinary arts, restaurant operations. Restaurant operations. The reason being is this: I've been in the personal care business for 20 years, and my children are starting, ventures in the food business. So for me to be able to guide them, I need to understand the basic principles of running one. Even if I don't have to be the one in the kitchen, the basic principles. So I don't think there's really, and these days also, there's a business model called franchising. You know that I'm the president of the Philippine Franchise Association right
Yes,
now.
I
The good,
mentioned that.
yes, the good thing about starting a startup, for example, a startup business, you can franchise an already established brand, so that you are actually gain a higher success rate between a traditional starting up a business from scratch and or a retail business, for example, versus a franchise brand. The higher the success rate is 90% in franchising, because
Because
you
it's
are
already an
actually
established brand, right?
you are franchising a successful model that is replicable. So if you ask me, the basic skills that you have to be with you are still the skills that you bring, even not in entrepreneurship, even in being successful in other profession, people management skills.
Okay, so I think with that, we would like to, of course, delve into now more on the operational part of it. Like you've mentioned, you've been in the personal care business of Oryspa, and now you're also looking into professional culinary arts or even restaurant management. What sort of like principles do you see are similar or common with these kinds of services actually? Because it's like a service industries versus the retail, because there's also like a retail part to the businesses that you have been involved in. Maybe you can differentiate that for our audience.
Well, different sets of how do you call it, different set of tools, no, as we go along the way, the tools that you've gained from before, you have to repurpose those tools.
Yes.
So I started entrepreneurship 20 years ago in manufacturing. So up to
Yes.
now, we're still manufacturing our own
Mentioned
personal
about the
care.
production, right?
Correct. Our own personal care products I have here. And I think in my background, you can see some of our products. So those are, after a decade, we went into, when we had Oryspa, which is rice brand-based spa products, we had to go into a different business model, and that is retailing. So
Yes.
probably if I discuss also differences, then
Yes.
we can the stark contrast can give us commonality in business. So from manufacturing, it's like, when they order, you have to fill up and then you have to deliver. That's it.
Yeah.
The challenges there is that how are you going to target deadlines and also the quality standards of production and manufacturing skills, manufacturing operations. And then I went into retail as a business model because there's a sort of unlimited number of customers as opposed to a business to business model in manufacturing, wherein we supply products to brands. In retail, because you are establishing a brand, you are able to have a bigger target market, which is the populace, right? The public. So when we went into retail, that's also tied up with how are we going to replicate the successful establishment of our retail business on the first year, and that was through franchising. So from 2010, first retail store of Oryspa, 2011, we went into franchising the business. Franchising because as a franchisor, I'm able to see other entrepreneurs who believe in my vision of a Filipino brand who can go beyond the Philippines and bring the Oryspa brand. So they're able to invest also their resources and partner with me through franchising. And then when as we evolve also, we see now during the pandemic that there are still a lot of opportunities that we can tie up with our existing operations. And it's also very exciting for entrepreneurs to start up something like what I'm doing right now, tiptoeing in the food business sector. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So with all of those differences, it's like North and South Pole, no? Personal care and then food. But you are right with your question. The commonality actually lies with quality.
Yes.
So if you, from personal care business, quality of products, also with food business, the same thing, the taste, the packaging, and all the presentation of products. So quality is number one. Number two is that, especially now during the pandemic, that you're able to be there for your customers right away. So it's the same across
delivery.
it's across all sectors, across all businesses. Quality, how are you able to respond to your customers quickly? And you should be top of mind now during the time that there are a lot of choices on the ground. So you have to be able to pivot right away in times of challenges. So it's the same thing across all sectors. And third, of course, the same thing for all businesses that I went in, or I'm tiptoeing now, is actually how are you able to replicate your or impart your learnings through training your people. So delegate, so that you can able to delegate them. You have to train them, you have to empower them that they can also do the things that you can do.
Yes. So I think, Sherill, this is also very inspiring to our audience, because as you've mentioned about the situation that we faced during the pandemic, maybe people who never thought about business or going into business or becoming entrepreneurs, suddenly they have to become more resilient, maybe because of the circumstances that they find themselves. And so they're exploring the possibilities of actually being in business or going into business. And so I think right now, one of the possible characteristics that I'd like to discuss with you of a business person is, you mentioned about pivoting to change, resilience, and maybe about the risk factor. Maybe this is one of the things that people have to understand when they do go or decide to go into business. It's different from, let's say, a profession or having a job with a company or a corporation. So I think this is something that they have to know about in terms of your insight as an entrepreneur.
Yes, you're correct with that. To some extent, no, this may sound cliche, or probably some people will not agree. But during the pandemic, you have to look at it in a different perspective, that there's always an opportunity in times of crisis, and that there's always a lesson, that the lesson, the silver lining brought to us by the pandemic. And during these times, because I also lead a couple of organizations or teams under me, and even if I'm struggling also or coping during the first weeks of the lockdown last year, the leader should have a clear, mindset that these two will pass. But during this time, you have to have our eyes open, our ears open, to see what will be the opportunities that this crisis is bringing. Correct. So that we can pivot. During last year, as any of the other businesses, it's very challenging because we had to also close down. But our aromatherapy business, the personal care business, instead of producing perfumes, we produced alcohol right away for hospitals and LGUs. So all of our raw materials that are for the production of our personal care business and the people in the laboratory are all migrated, correct, to alcohol production. So that is one of the pivots. So we had to have Oryspa Healthcare as a department, and also and also the people have to be multi-skills. So we now have even the people in the management, for example, they have to go down and they can dispatch orders right away, or they can answer the queries online. So different skills also are being transferred to them. So or even now, because we started, I'm helping out my son also, in a way supporting him when he started his milk tea business here in Calamba. So even some of our people from Oryspa are able to help him. You know, all of our core teams are helping him out to start it, to get the ball rolling. Yes, on the ground, service, deliveries, getting orders online, because 90% are via orders online. So the learning during this time for me personally is only those who are able to adapt to change right away, and your ability as an entrepreneur, as a leader, not just an entrepreneur, but as a leader, to actually problem solving skills, to have that problem solving skills. You were discussing earlier, Doc April, about decision making, right? Decision making, we cannot have that lull time. Okay, things can wait, people can wait. No, during the lockdowns are being scheduled 2 days before the implementation.
Yes.
So you have to brief everyone that this is what's going to happen in the coming days. So the four P's of leadership. There's another P that's added to it, which is problem solving skills, and that is also equal to innovation. So I think a lot of your viewers also will be able to relate to that.
Yes. So I think as a last and insight here, because we're really talking about decision making now, our students, people are being faced to make decisions, whether it be personal, professional, or their careers, life-changing decisions. So what do you think should be on top of mind of our students when they're making this kind of life-changing decisions about what kind of work they will eventually be pursuing in their life? Like when you mentioned you started thinking that this is what you were going to do when you studied sociology, and then eventually there were like family circumstances that made you explore the possibility of entrepreneurship, and then later on you had several challenges that you face before you actually can become successful in your business.
Okay, so this may be surprising for some established entrepreneurs, even if you're a son of a tycoon or a daughter of a established leader, for example. You have to have the humility to start small. Embrace that starting small, the courage to start anything small, because I observe also that not just with this generation, but with others, they say I want to become an entrepreneur, I want to become like this, but they don't really have the courage to take the pains, embrace the pains that go with it. You know, the humility to start small will actually help you learn that all big things start with that small dot. Also, what I observe, our students, our new generation should be able to imagine also and are willing to take the rigors of training. That's what I observe. Even with the people that we have, with the teams that we are handling, those who are able to finish their the rigors of training are actually have that patience, so that the correct virtues of the stoic virtues actually for you to start anything to become successful in life.
So it's really sacrifice and the hard work and the hours that you really have to put into. So we are so interested actually in what is behind you, Sherill, because we can see like Oryspa over there. And then you mentioned about the milk tea bar. So maybe you can just take us a little bit on a tour at your back very
Okay.
quickly so that our
Correct.
televiewers can see what is out there
Yeah.
for
So
them.
I'm in my office actually. I have to remove my virtual background because this is just a virtual background.
Okay.
So I'm in the office.
So we
I'm
were
in
so
my
interested to
I'm in
see
my
the milk
office now.
bar. Yes, you can
Yeah.
show.
And then when you go down, you can see probably I can go down because there's internet naman. So when you, oh, here na lang. Sorry, can cut this.
Yes.
So you can see the 2D bar, the cafe. It's a Kurimi milk tea bar in Calamba City, Laguna. So it's beside Oryspa. So there's also there the new facility, the new building beside Oryspa here in Calamba.
Mhm.
So there you go. So it's like a comics or a cartoon concept. So people, millennials, when they visit, they can have selfies there and they can post on social media. So different branding strategies, different marketing strategies for different brands
And also different target markets,
and
right?
different target markets. So, and even a lot of other principles that we've seen that can be applicable for some of the brands may not be applicable for the new brand that you want to get into. So that's a Filipino brand also with Taiwan flavors, Taiwan tea and Japanese flavors. And Oryspa is also a proudly Filipino brand.
Yes. So I think we've had such a fruitful discussion on the field of business and entrepreneurship. So maybe Mrs. Sherill Ramos Quintana, you can give our viewers, not only in the Philippines, but also worldwide, your last words of inspiration and advice to those who would be interested and can explore the field of business and maybe become an entrepreneur like yourself.
Okay, so again, thank you. And I wish that even during this time, there's always an opportunity. As I was talking to other audiences earlier, I was talking about the virtues that we have to inculcate with us during this time. There's a lot of opportunities that we can embark on, and even if we are locked up at home, it doesn't mean that you have to do nothing.
Yeah.
No, don't throw the years during this pandemic, last year and this year, don't throw it away. Do something about it that will actually level up what you have right now. So as for me, we're trying to work with one another in our team to start up something. If it works, then we're happy. Then if it doesn't work, then we have to tweak it out. So you have to be able to not just pivot your brands or your company as an entrepreneur, but as a person, you have to seek to become a better person after this pandemic. So with that, I also would like to encourage everyone, and this has become very prominent last year as we're able to just buy our supplies in the immediate community. Now we learn that the Filipino brands are the ones who will be with us in times of crisis. So it's about time that we get to patronize one another, love our own. So I always believe with that, that Dr. April, and I'd like to share to your viewers that even at the height of the pandemic last year, we launched a book called Yes, the Filipino Brand Can. We launched this in June 2020. While all of us, of course, don't know what's going to happen and how
Yes.
long the pandemic will last, we published this book. And I've talked to different brands, successful brands that are still thriving during the pandemic, of course, and are able to go in so many destinations promoting what the Filipino can offer to the world. So Again, I'd like to encourage all of you to seek not just externally, to seek the good within ourselves, within being a Filipino. So that's it. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. So that was Mrs. Sherill Ramos Quintana, President of Oryspa Incorporated and President of the Franchising Association of the Philippines. Thank you so much for your time, and we really look forward to meeting again each other personally and not just virtually. So we wish everyone to stay safe and healthy in your team, and until the next time. So this has been Attorney Amihan April ALCAZAR. This is AAA Live, where your academic goals are advanced and achieved. So we're airing every Wednesdays from 7 to 8 in the evening. So until next time, stay safe and healthy, everyone, and good evening to all. Thank you.
AAA Live.
Inyong napakinggan si Attorney Amihan April ALCAZAR.
AAA Live.
Naway kinapulutan ninyo ng impormasyon at kaalaman ang talakayan ng mga ekspertong nakapanayam mula sa iba't ibang larangan ng edukasyon.
AAA Live.
Ang AAA Live ay mapakikinggan at mapanonood sa Katipunan Channel tuwing araw ng Miyerkules alas 7 hanggang alas 8 ng gabi.
Where your academic goals will be advanced and achieved. AAA Live.
Hanggang sa muling pagtatanghal.